But as promised, joining us on the phone line with the WNBA All-Star Game tonight. Of course, you can check that out on ABC, ESPN Plus, and also the Hoop streams on YouTube and Facebook with Ari Chambers. She is joining us. ESPN and Andscape women's sports analyst joining us as she is over there in Indianapolis for all the All-Star Game festivities. Ari, welcome in. How you doing today?
I am so good. Whenever there's a combination of people who are excited about women's basketball, I'm having a time.
Well, I'm glad you said that part at the beginning because that's kind of where I wanted to start with you because, we are in an environment where, listen, we know women's sports have not just started recently, okay? I mean, there's a long history of women's just being excellent in sports, from basketball to gymnastics to tennis, all over the place. But now we have an entirely new level of attention on women in sports. So for you, as you look around, kind of give a description from where you stand, looking around, being like, what your perception is of it as someone who is saying, hey, I'm in the midst of watching this happen right now.
All I can think about is scale, scale, scale. You see the depth on the court and the three-point shot getting further back. That's kind of an indication of the graph of it going up, women's sports in general. It's a great juxtaposition, but seeing All-Star here in Indiana is just a different level. WNBA Live is a place for fans to be able to go and experience WNBA events around All-Star. So you have your player meet and greets. You have just players being able to speak to fans. You have the Stud Bud stream that has been going very viral this weekend. Just everybody's involved. Everybody's happy. There's generational talent infiltrating the game. And we're going to be talking about these players for so many decades to come.
You mentioned about the viral part of it. And before we get to the actual women on the court, I got to ask you, do you think that if we didn't have the 24/7 nature of social media today, would we have this level of attention on the sport?
It definitely helps to have social media because players are able to have their own agency over their stories. And so they're able to spread it in a way that conventional journalism and media have not been willing to share their stories. They're not waiting for their yes. They're just stepping into their own. And it allows you to fall in love with them as humans. And so you want to follow their games. The women's sports landscape in general is just fan-driven based on parasocial relationships and honestly just wanting to root for these athletes. And then once you get hooked on it, the game is excellent. So the product has increased because of just the visibility, and the visibility is heavily impacted by how social media is.
You mentioned about the game. Ari Chambers joining us here on 97.3 ESPN at Ari Ivy on the X platform and Instagram. Of course, she covers women's sports for ESPN and Andscape. The talent on the court is a huge part of this because I was saying before you came on, you watch WNBA All-Star Game. This isn't like the NBA All-Star Game. This isn't the men shooting threes from half court and having open dunks without anybody near them. These women are playing a competitive basketball game in an all-star environment. And I think that is something that is desperately missing for the rest of the sports landscape is that when you have the best players in the court, they're not just handing each other layups. I remember last year, women were almost getting elbowed in the face with some of those rebounds.
Yes, but it's the best of both worlds. We do have the half-court shots. We do have the 4-point shot has been incorporated this year in particular because of the range of the 3-point shooting from the players. We get some dunks here and there sometimes, and that's a fun additive, but the root of it all is competition, right? So these players want to win. They want to win that prize money. They want to make sure that they show the best of the best. And you see flashy passes. You see just flashy plays. You see some comedic humor in there. You see just them having a competitive drive because they want to say that they're the best. Like, I don't know, women, we have a sense of pride about ourselves that we're like, we want to go out and show the best version of ourselves. And so that's what you see in the All-Star Game. They don't let up. They're thankful to be here, and they want to show their greatness on a large scale. And that's what you see at All-Star the entire time.
I think that's what's important. You mentioned the on a large scale because, a lot of people, they're coming to the sport because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, where maybe they weren't paying attention before. But now, guess what? No Caitlin Clark tonight. She's got a groin injury. So now you have women like Asia Wilson, women like Kelsey Plum, like Breanna Stewart. They're going to get a whole nother level of people who are being like, well, there's no Caitlin Clark, but who are these other women? And I think that's so important because now these women are getting new audiences, new sets of eyeballs to them when they should have been having it all along.
Yeah, and then Caitlin is still around and making her rounds as the mayor of Indianapolis. It looks like she's everywhere. But before Caitlin had the shooting record, there was Sabrina, and before Sabrina, it was Kelsey. So you get this historic, comprehensive view of the game. And I love the bridge of generations here. You have Nneka, who's a 10-time All-Star, and she joins an exclusive club of only her, Sue, DT, BG, and Tamika Catchings. That is a very exclusive club. So people are going to be able to see her. You see Skylar Diggins, who's really enthused to play with her. There's so many storylines that aren't just reliant on one player, and that's beautiful. And Caitlin's going to be there rooting them on, too.
And you just mentioned Nneka because I got to admit, she's one of the only two women who have been healthy on my fantasy women's basketball team this season. So, but I think that's part of the conversation is that, listen, let's be real, okay? Ari Chambers joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. I am a Italian kid from South Philadelphia living in South Jersey, okay? And I'm playing women's fantasy basketball on ESPN Plus, okay? That just is an example of the evolution of this, whereas years ago, there would have been no fantasy basketball for women. There would have been no level of, Twitch streams years ago. And now you got people like me sweating out the fact that, who am I going to put in my lineup because Lexi Hull is injured tonight? You have people who text into our show who are like, Josh, I need a bet for the WNBA tonight. People are gambling on this. So there's another level where it's now we talk about, and again, I'm not trying to put myself in a place, but I'm just kind of looking at it from an observer, and you can tell me where I'm wrong. It's the idea that we've always talked about, women need to be respected on the same level as the male athlete, right? And now it's at a level where it's almost can we believe that we're talking about people gambling on this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can believe it because the game is the game. It's always been an excellent product. There have always been legendary iterations of players throughout, and it's just a matter of visibility. So we mentioned social media earlier. That's one vehicle for it. ESPN has a great digital presence, too. We have hoop streams tonight. You have more linear, programming to showcase what it always has been. So now that y'all have fallen in love with the game, whether that's through Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, or whoever you love, now you can see the grand scheme of things. Now you're betting on Nneka, and Nneka's coming through for you, And so it's just it's a matter of making it available. So you don't have to be an advocate for it. You can just be a consumer of it. It's beyond advocacy. You don't, it's not a charity. It's just a good product. And you can see that with your lines.
With that, you mentioned the hoop streams. Before I let you go, you will be co-hosting the hoop streams for the All-Star Game tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. Also give her a follow, Ari Ivory on X and Instagram. Before I let you go, who is a woman that when people flip on hoop streams, people flip on ABC tonight to watch this game, that you're saying, listen, you might be tuning in for these other women, but let me tell you about this woman?
I'm interested to see how Alicia Gray shows up because I know that last year she won skills and three-point shooting, and this year she fell short. But Alicia Gray is a bucket. Pay attention to her. Pay attention to Nafisa Collier. She's having an MVP year. Just her footwork and her motor are insane. And then Asia Wilson is one of the greatest of all time. And so I just am looking forward to all of them playing.
Love it. Ari Chambers, I appreciate you carving out some time. I know you're very busy this weekend over there with the WNBA All-Star Weekend. Again, hoop streams tonight, YouTube, Facebook, all the platforms at Ari Ivory on X and Instagram. She is Ari Chambers, women's sports analyst from ESPN and Andscape, and she joined us right here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks again for the time.
Thank you.